Welcome back to Game 4 of the Svidler-Shankland match in Hoogeveen, Netherlands. Both players are tied at 1.5 after 3 games, and in this game Svidler had the white pieces, so let's see if he is able to get a decisive result. Svidler opens knight f3, d5 from Shankland, e3 from Svidler, so this could transpose into a queen's gambit structure with d4 and c4. Shankland goes knight to f6, c4 from Svidler, e6, knight c3, and Shankland captures on c4. Bishop takes c4 from Svidler, a6 from Shankland, with the idea of going b5 and bishop b7. Svidler castles, b5, bishop b3, bishop b7 from Shankland, and d4. So at the moment this dark square bishop is locked in, but white can always go e4. Knight bd7 from Shankland, queen e2 from white, preparing e4, and c5 from Shankland, striking in the center. Svidler goes rook d1, just supporting the pawn, and queen b8, tucking the queen out of this rook's line. And Svidler goes e4 here. Here the idea of playing b4 in order to win this pawn isn't such a good idea because the black king is still stuck in the center, and also the bishop has nice pressure on this e6 point. And white can meet this move with e5. So if black takes the knight, white simply recaptures, and then he can play d5. So here if black goes knight f6, then white can go bishop a4 check. So if that is blocked with the knight, then d takes c5 opens up an attack on the knight. So here if, for example, black goes knight g4, then white simply goes knight to e4. Next move is going to be bishop to a4, pinning the knight, followed by capture here. So here we have c takes d4 from Shankland, Svidler recaptures, bishop d6, looking at h2, therefore g3, and black castles. So here again, b4 is not such a good idea. If knight a4 and if knight takes e4, then black has to worry about some potential sacrifices on this e6 pawn. Even now knight takes e6 isn't such a crazy idea because white does get very decent compensation here. So that is why Shankland castled, and we have f3, just giving more protection here because black is threatening to play b4 now. Rook c8 from Shankland, bishop e3, and here Shankland played knight to f8. Perhaps a little bit concerned with some potential sacrifices on e6, but what exactly is the knight doing there? Instead he should have played maybe king to h8, just stepping out of this bishop's diagonal. But he played knight to f8. And the knight can't really go to g6 immediately because after rook a to c1, which was what Svidler played, if knight to g6, then now this is undefended, white simply sacks on e6. So here Shankland played h5, with the idea of expanding on the king side. Queen d2 from Svidler, so now threatening to take here, which would open up a discovery on this bishop. Also making room for knight to e2, and this knight can bounce over to the king side. Rook d8 from Shankland, knight c to e2, h4, and we have bishop g5 from Svidler. So simply threatening to take on f6, which would open up black's king. So bishop e7 seems like a very natural move to play, not allowing white to take here and mess up black's kingside pawns. But instead, Shankland in the game played h takes g3, allowing Svidler to play bishop takes f6, and after g takes f6, Svidler's queen lunges over to the king side. And this is looking very dangerous for black. Bishop e5 and king to h1. A logical move, just preparing a rook to come to this g file, which should open up for white. Black plays g2 check here. But instead of this, he should have probably tried to complicate things with bishop takes d4. Then here play bishop takes e4, and then queen to e5. White is still better, but this is very sharp. So white now has to go on the defense with queen to e3. This is probably black's best try in this position. But instead g2 check from Shankland. King takes g2. And now Shankland goes for the idea we discussed earlier with bishop takes d4. But here the problem is that now this pawn is no longer on g3, rook g1 comes with check. So Shankland blocks with the bishop, and a very nice move from Svidler here. Knight takes e6, removing the defender of this bishop. So now rook takes g6, knight takes g6, queen takes g6, king to f8. If black played king to h8 here, then it's going to be a force mate. Rook comes to give a check, rook g7 followed by queen h8. So king to f8, the game lasts a little longer, but white is still winning. And after king e7, queen h7 check, and it was in this position that Samuel Shankland resigned. If he goes king d6, then queen c7 is checkmate. And if instead of that he goes, for example, king e8 or f8, simply rook to g1, threatening rook g8 checkmate. Black has to block with the queen. And here you simply take the queen off, and after bishop takes e6, threatening queen f7, this is game over for black. So this win means that Svidler now leads the match with a score of 2.5 to 1.5, with 2 more games to go for these players. So if you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe, share and leave a like. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.